She was once one of the richest women in the city. But after a brutal accident shattered her memory, she wandered the streets like a nameless ghost, until one night she collapsed in a dark alley, forgotten by the world. No one dared to go near her. No one, except a poor 20-year-old boy who picked her up while others laughed at him. But what he didn't know, was that the crazy woman he carried in his arms was a billionaire, and saving her would drag him into a mystery that could change his life forever. Before starting the story, comment from where you are. If you like the video, subscribe the channel, please. The afternoon sun hung low, casting long shadows across the narrow alleyway where a woman lay unconscious on the cold ground. Her clothes were old, torn at the edges, as though she had been wearing the same outfit for days. Dust clung to her hair, and her face showed no recognition of the world around her. People walked past, stepping around her as if she were invisible, a forgotten soul lost somewhere between madness and memory. No one knew that behind the dirt, silence, and confusion was a billionaire once powerful, now broken by a tragic accident that had shattered her mind. The alley smelled of garbage and damp walls, but she lay still, breathing softly. Her fingers twitched slightly, as if some distant part of her subconscious still fought for survival. The world around her didn't care. Vehicles honked far away, children shouted in play, and conversations floated in the air, but none of it reached her. Fate, however, had already decided to change her life that day. It was only a matter of moments before someone completely unexpected would enter the alley. Someone with nothing but a kind heart. Someone who didn't know he was about to save a billionaire. Ethan. A 20-year-old boy with worn-out shoes and a bag slung over his shoulder sprinted down the street, chasing after a man who had just snatched an apple from the fruit stall where Ethan worked part-time. He wasn't chasing because of the apple's value. He just hated dishonesty. When he turned into the alley, he stopped suddenly. There she was, a woman, motionless, pale, and dressed like someone who had lived months on the street. Ethan forgot about the thief. Concern overtook his expression as he stepped closer. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he asked, kneeling beside her. There was no response except the faint rise and fall of her chest. He touched her shoulder gently and realized she was breathing irregularly. Something was wrong, very wrong. Without hesitation, he lifted her carefully in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, as if hardship had slowly eaten away at her strength. As he turned to leave the alley, two teenagers laughed, pointing at him. "Why are you carrying a crazy woman?" One mocked. "Leave her. She's homeless." Ethan ignored them. He tightened his grip and continued walking. "A life is a life," he whispered to himself, and with determination, headed straight toward the nearest hospital. As Ethan walked through the busy marketplace carrying the unconscious woman, people stared. Some laughed openly. Others whispered behind their hands. A group of shopkeepers paused their conversations to watch the strange sight. "Look at that boy," one scoffed, "carrying trash like it's treasure." Another smirked, probably trying to get attention. Ethan felt their stares, their judgment cutting into him like sharp knives, but he didn't slow down. "Humanity doesn't need an excuse," he murmured under his breath. The woman's head rested against his chest, and each time her breath hitched, Ethan walked faster. A little girl tugged at her mother's dress. "Mama, is the lady sick?" The mother quickly pulled her daughter away. "Don't look. She is mad." Those words stung Ethan more than he expected, but he kept going. He glanced down at the woman, whose face was bruised with exhaustion. She didn't deserve this ridicule. He had barely eaten that day, had no money for transportation, and the hospital was still a long walk away, but he didn't stop. Sweat rolled down his face, and his arms began to ache under her weight. Still, he carried her with quiet determination. People continued to mock him, but he had made up his mind. Nothing would stop him until this woman received help. When Ethan reached the hospital lobby, nurses glanced up in surprise. Some hesitated, unsure whether they should get involved. A receptionist frowned at the woman's disheveled appearance. "We don't admit homeless patients without paperwork," she said coldly. Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's unconscious. Please, she needs help." The receptionist hesitated. Hospitals were often strict with policies, especially for people who appeared mentally unstable or without identification. But Ethan didn't back down. "You can't refuse treatment. She could die." His voice echoed through the lobby. A young nurse, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. "He's right. Bring her into the emergency ward." Ethan exhaled with relief as two staff members brought a stretcher. As they lifted her from his arms, he felt a strange sense of responsibility, like he was handing over someone precious. Double quotes. "Sir, are you a relative?" The nurse asked. "No," Ethan admitted. "I just found her like this." The nurse nodded. "We'll do what we can. Stay nearby in case we need more information." Ethan sat down on a bench. His legs ached and his shirt was soaked with sweat, but he didn't care. For the first time since he found her, he felt hope. Doctors gathered around the woman, attaching monitors and checking her vitals. "Severe dehydration," one doctor observed. "Malnutrition. Possible head trauma." Another doctor noted her confused murmurs. "She may have suffered neurological damage." They cleaned her wounds, replaced her torn clothes with a hospital gown, and began intravenous treatment. Ethan watched through the glass panel, his eyebrows furrowed with worry. The woman's eyes fluttered weakly, but she still didn't regain consciousness. A nurse approached Ethan with a clipboard. "Do you know her name?" He shook his head. "No, I just found her." "Well, you saved her life," she said softly. Ethan didn't feel heroic. He felt helpless watching her fight silently against whatever had broken her mind. He sat beside the emergency room door, refusing to leave. He didn't know why he cared so much for a stranger, but something inside him whispered that leaving her alone would be wrong. Even though she could not hear him, he whispered, "You're safe now. You're going to be okay." Hours passed before the woman stirred. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened halfway, clouded with confusion. She stared at the ceiling as though seeing it for the first time in her life. A nurse rushed to call the doctor. When Ethan heard the commotion, he stood up quickly. Through the doorway, he saw her blinking slowly. Her lips parted, trying to form words, but all that escaped was a broken whisper. Where am I? Her voice was fragile, trembling with fear and a lost sense of identity. The doctor asked gentle questions, but she couldn't remember her name, family, past nothing. She trembled, curling slightly like a frightened child. Ethan stepped forward as the doctor allowed him inside. "You're safe," he told her softly. She looked at him with eyes full of confusion and silent desperation. For a moment, she seemed to cling to his presence, as if he were the only familiar thing in an unfamiliar world. Her memory was shattered. But she was alive, and that was enough for Ethan. Later that evening, the doctor approached Ethan privately. "She's suffering from post-traumatic amnesia," he explained. "Something caused severe emotional and neurological stress. It might take days or weeks to recover." Ethan listened carefully. "She needs consistent care. We don't know who she is, and she has no ID. Legally, She'll be considered a Jane Doe until her identity is discovered. Asterisk Ethan looked through the window at her fragile form. I'll stay until someone comes for her. Asterisk, the doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. Most people walk away from cases like hers. You're different. Asterisk Ethan simply nodded. He wasn't doing this for praise. Something within him refused to abandon her. Asterisk at night, while Ethan sat beside her bed, the woman suddenly gasped and clutched her head. Fragments of a memory flashed bright lights, screaming, a car swerving. In darkness. Asterisk, Ethan gently held her hand. It's okay. Don't force it. Asterisk, she looked at him desperately. I had something. Something important, she whispered. But it's gone. Asterisk, Ethan reassured her with patience and warmth. Her fear slowly eased. Asterisk, the next morning, 2 men in suits arrived at the hospital, showing the staff a missing person poster. We are searching for Ms. Alara Grant, one said. She's a billionaire philanthropist who disappeared weeks ago. Ethan froze. The picture. It was her. Asterisk shock rippled through the hospital staff, and within minutes, the guards and assistants rushed inside to confirm her identity. Asterisk, Ethan stepped back. Stunned. Asterisk, when the men entered her room, she looked frightened. Ethan stepped forward. It's okay. They're here for you. Asterisk, the lead assistant spoke gently. Ms. Alara, we're here to take you home. Asterisk, but she turned to Ethan instead. Don't leave me. Asterisk, Ethan smiled softly. I won't. Asterisk, the assistant approached Ethan. You saved the richest woman in the city without knowing who she was. Her family owes you everything. Asterisk, Ethan simply replied. I did what anyone should do. But everyone knew not everyone would. The billionaire had lost her memory. But she had found something priceless. Asterisk, a protector with nothing but kindness. Asterisk, in a stranger who became her first anchor in a world she no longer recognized.